Welcome. It's Montel Williams here, and thanks for joining us again for another edition of Let's Be Blunt with Montel, where we talk normally everything cannabis and hemp related in the world to make sure we can give you enough information to help you navigate the space as you are out looking in dispensaries and other places to find a product that you might want to use for yourself or your family. But today, we're going to shift the paradigm just a little bit again. This is now the second appearance of our next guest on the podcast. And because of your response, I want to make sure that I keep bringing her back and giving you an opportunity to hear a little bit more about what she does. She's a medical intuitive, a spiritual healer, an energy medicine practitioner. She started a practice in etheric medicine based in Long Beach in 2017. And her practice, Bobbi, communicates with the spirit to help people get to the root cause of their physical illnesses, chronic pain, and or emotional issues. And I'm talking about the one and only Bobbi Vogel. Welcome her back to Let's Be Blunt with Montel.
Thank you.
Yay. Thanks for being here, Bobbi.
Thank you.
You know, I think what I ought to do one more time, though, to make sure those people who are tuning in, expecting to hear everything cannabis and hearing from you, they need to understand what it is you do. What exactly is a medical intuitive? How would you describe yourself? What do you do?
Well, right. I think it's different for everybody. So I know for me, what it means is that I'm able to tune in to someone's, not just their etheric body, energy body, but their physical body as well. And I can see density, anxiety. I'm given information about what that density means, how we can clear it out. I guess.
And in that process of identifying that density and clearing it out, you say that you're able to get to the root of a person's illness and help them overcome that, right?
Right.
How did this come about? I mean, were you just sitting around one day on the couch going, I think I can heal somebody? No, where did this come from?
That never occurred to me, actually.
Okay. And where did it come from?
Well, I mean, it's a pretty long story, but
it's okay. We got some time.
Okay. So I was a top producing realtor in San Francisco. I moved down to LA when a client from San Francisco who was a flipper, an investor, she wanted to buy properties in Los Angeles and flip them. So we got into contract on 5 great homes.
How many years ago was this?
Now it's about 6.
Okay.
And so I thought now is a good time, to go if I'm going to go, because I always wanted to live down here on the beach. And then I made that move, and within 4 days of that, she bailed on all of the contracts, even though she was in,
Ouch.
Yeah. So it was about $225,000 gone. But so I wasn't obviously planning for that. And then I had brought my special needs son. He was in a high care facility in the Bay Area because he's adopted and has behavioral issues. And so within a very short period of time, he was moved down there, and then San Francisco County decided they didn't want to pay for his care anymore, and they basically forced him out. Bottom lining it, but they had just, so the day before that they had said, he needed a lot of care. And then the next day I was threatened with being arrested for abandonment if I didn't come pick him up. Now I know that I'm not suited, that it didn't have what he needs, which is a lot. But anyway, he, because of his struggles and stuff, I had to have him at home, and he was going to a public school for the first time in his life. He was always within a school, within a facility, and it didn't go well. And little by little, I couldn't go to work during the day because he wouldn't be at school all day, and lots of other things. And without that cushion, I pretty quickly lost everything that I had, and ended up having a sticker from the sheriff on the door. And this is over a bit of time. And I was just at an absolute complete loss. Like, what is going on here? I didn't have family. Both my parents are on the other side, and I didn't understand, like, everything that I was doing before wasn't working. You know, they called me Midas in San Francisco because every deal I touched turned to gold. And here I was, like, turning the keys into my Mercedes Benz, leaving it in the parking lot. I had no money for food, no nothing, and I couldn't get out of it. And I was screaming at God and, my people and everything. Like, what did I say I would do? What is going on? Like, I just leave me alone, like move on to somebody else. And I actually, was contemplating leaving the planet. And somebody came to town from Chicago that I hadn't seen in a very long time. And she asked me, she said, "Can I take you to lunch?" So I went to lunch with her, and she mentioned agape. And now I hadn't told her anything about what was going on in my life because it was just so mortifying and I had shame around it. And um, I thought it was a restaurant, agape, And she said, "No, it's a non-denominational church around here somewhere. You should check it out." I was like, "Sure." I totally had given up on life at that point. And the next morning I looked up, so that was a Saturday. I looked it up, and sure, there was a church was happening in like 30 minutes. So I like grabbed my son, got out the door. And uh, while I was there, I I swore. I had my face in my hand, and I was like, I knew it was like, it sounds nuts, but like the word of God coming to me, or my parents and spirit, because it was my personal thoughts that were going on. It was my state of mind, my situation in my life, what I was contemplating doing. And the words that came through, I don't even remember what they were, but I left there for the first time feeling like I wanted that I had faith, that I had hope. And through the words that came through, it was Michael Beckwith. And I remember I went to him not knowing who he was, right? He had bodyguards and stuff. And I went and I said to him after the service, "You saved my life with what you said." And he stopped and he told the bodyguards it was fine. And he came and he like looked me in the face and gave me a hug and walked away. And from that day forward, I just started praying and talking to my parents on the other side. I would go up and down the beach in Venice, just praying, "Help me. What did I say I would do? I want to do it." Whatever agreement that I said, whatever I agreed to before I came in, which we can talk all about, but like whatever I said I would do, please just tell me what it is. What do I need to heal? What do I need to do? Because I know I'm here for a reason. There's no way that I'm not. And even though I ended up getting evicted shortly after that, things got better. And that's crazy to say, but they got better because because of my faith, and because I just got so focused on what was my relationship with God and spirit. And I don't mean organized religion, God. Sure. And it became all that I focused on and had faith in. And gradually, you know, even though I was like sleeping in garages, or friends would get Airbnb for me and my son at the time. But things were shifting, and I never went back to that feeling that I didn't want to be here. And then people started telling me, "Oh, you're a healer," like other psychic people and healers and stuff. And I was like, what? Like I was a medic and then a realtor, and I was still trying to revive my real estate at the time, and it wasn't working. But and then I actually went and was led to do ayahuasca, and that like propelled me into this whole nother level of connection spiritually. And I got a lot of information during that experience. And I was told in that experience that I was a healer and find a teacher. And then at that time, I was so reliant on spirit, and that okay, I hear you. And I went and I did it. And that's when I came across Linda Howe on Facebook with the Akashic Records. And when I saw her face, because I've known her from Chicago like 25 years ago, as I had said, and that's when I knew that that was my teacher, and I signed up for the Akashic Records because I just trust that much, you know. And then the very first time I opened my own Akashic Records is when I was like absolutely sure of how I was being communicated with. I've always had the gift. I just didn't understand that that's how I'm communicated with, like in images and, you know.
And just for people listening and tuning in right now, Akashic Records are.
Well, like I've said, I've moved on from the records, and I wanted to talk a second about that after. But the Akashic Records is like it's a, you know, like you open a book of records, and in that giant book, like I saw it first, is like looks like a big Harry Potter book, you know, if you want to visualize that. And everything, all the lives you've lived, what your soul has lived, all the experiences it's had, all the ones it's currently having, all the possibilities of the future are all in this book of records. And so you access the master, you know, of the records, and master's teachers loved ones it's called. And so and then it just, I literally boom, I just started opening people's records, and it was just unbelievable experience. And since then, though, I started being sent a lot of people with medical issues, right? Just started showing up kind of in the theme. And I started being shown more things in the body, energy things, like I can literally see people's anxiety and things like that. And I started getting guided, as I've mentioned before in the last podcast, but I started getting guided as to like how to move some of the density out at the same time as getting the information about what the trauma was or the emotional.
Because you believe that all illness is rooted in trauma. Most illness.
I believe it because that's what I've been. Yes, I do, because that's what I know from. I know it sounds odd, but that's what I understand from spirit, and because you know, I get taught along the way now. You know, like initially got connected to that gift, but then it's like I trust spirit, they trust me, and then the gift keeps getting they pop more and more and more. You know, and so I actually had a conversation with Linda Howe, you know, who speaks all over the world, China, and teaches. And I asked her, you know, because I want to do the Akashic Records justice, right? And even though I moved, my gift has expanded from there. I had a conversation the other day with her, and I said, you know, how do I explain this without saying that, you know, the Akashic Records, it's an amazing tool. And I said, you know, because this isn't in the records, what I'm doing, right? She's like, no. And that's really important that you say that, because her main concern is that people then, you know, will think, oh, if I go and I take the Akashic Records course, then I'm going to be able to be a medical intuitive too. And that, unfortunately, you know, and so the people are going to focus on that instead of whatever it is, the gift that they have, you know, because we each have a unique gift.
And those records are specific to you.
Yeah. And so I work outside of and she even agreed, you know, of course, the things that I'm doing are not within the Akashic Records. So I'm always grateful, and of course, for that introduction to my own gift. And then and it's all exactly the way that it should have been. But
So, Bobbi, okay, I get it that you had to go through your own trials and tribulations in a way to be open to this idea of recognizing this force. So, and you said that you had reached out to, like a mentor who identified that what your space really is this medical intuitive kind of space. When did you feel that you had the ability to do something like this?
well, you're referencing Linda Howe.
Yes.
Right. So Linda didn't identify that for me. It was she just was she's the person that teaches Akashic Records practitioners courses, like many of them. And that's taking that course was how I got connected to my gift that I've always had. But it's when I really realized that that is how I'm being communicated with, like I said. And the way that I never anticipated being connected with any medical intuitive gift or any of these things. It just, somebody came, one of a client came who I had talked about who had medical problem like pain for 10 years, and I didn't know how I could help. I knew that I could because she was in front of me, but when I tuned in with that client for the very first time, and I started sending light through, which was also new. This is what I say, it's like up leveling, like teaching me spirit, teaching me new things I didn't know when she walked in the door. And then suddenly they started identifying like what was going on with her. The spirit, sorry. Yeah. Spirit was starting to talk about what that pain was really about.
So let me back up for half a second. You said a client. So that means you had clients. What made you go from taking this course to letting people come to you for anything?
Well, because I was clear that especially after the first time I opened my own records, and I had to open other people's records to even get the practitioner's course, like women who have been doing the Akashic Records for like 20, 25 years. It's like a serious um, practitioner course that Linda does. And so by the time I was done with that course, I had already had to do lots of readings with people. And then I did readings with my family. And
Well, let's also make sure that people understand that just by taking that Akashic Record course isn't going to automatically make you a person who can tap into other people's Akashic Records.
right.
It's
Exactly.
just that you're just getting information like taking a college course
Right.
on what is Akashic Records.
Right. And I mean, and it's used for some people, because it's such a useful tool for self or for healing. I mean, I healed a lot of my own stuff within my own records, like for myself. And so it can be used for that alone. You don't always have to move to do it for other people or open other people's records.
Or would you even have the ability to do it?
Or would you even have the ability?
And in your case, after having opened those records in that course, that showed you in a way that your course was to do this for other people.
Right.
Okay. So now you started seeing clients first to do what? Just to open up their records and let them identify what their blockages are.
Or just, yeah, I mean, some people would come to me about any kind of like, sometimes it's like this guy they're dating, or, is this little things like that, like life questions.
Coming to you in the terms of trying to ask a psychic.
Kind of.
Can I
right.
say it that way?
Yeah. Yes. But it was right. I never considered, because then you think it's like a, crystal ball kind of thing, which was never the case. It's way more deeper and intense than that. And like the information that comes through for people in the Akashic Records it is not vague. There's nothing vague. And I think anybody that's done a session with me can attest to that. In fact, sometimes it's hard stuff because it's not vague. It's so direct.
So you had clients coming to you first that were just trying to basically get a reading, right? So they get, and then you have a client comes to you, says, "Can you help me figure out what's wrong with me?"
Right. So she had won the raffle, or not won, but she paid for at a silent raffle at my stepson's school. I donated 2 sessions. She bid on one of them and got one of them because she was also at this had been for 11 years of level 10 pain, which, and every time she would urinate, it was excruciating. It's a military family. They couldn't, their whole life revolved around it. So I didn't know who she was. I had no idea. And she said, I got I won the thing or whatever. And so she came, and she walked in, and she was just so in pain, dejected, and I know because Spirit told me, because when I first started doing the Akashic Records, I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing for business now. I remember I'm a real estate for 17 years and buying and flipping and all that stuff. So I trusted that guidance, and I was like, how am I going to find people to help? Like, what do you do with this kind of a thing? Like put an ad to
Shingle
like,
up, sell it
yeah,
door,
I
yeah.
mean, it's
Right.
like, then, and Spirit said, we will send you who we want you to help. And I've always trusted that. And so every time, and that has been true. Like people just show up, show up, show up. And so when they do, I don't know how, but I know that I can. I don't know how I'm going to be able to help them, but I trust that I can. And so I simply ask, how can I help them? Show me how I can help them. That's what I ask. And so with her, she was kind of timid and scared and the whole thing, and was she had a lot of wounding, a lot of very sensitive information that was coming through about what all this was that was going on here, right? And without telling too much of her personal story, and then for the first time I heard stand up. And so I stood up and for Spirit, and I was shown, like, is almost like seeing an imprint on her body, like, or light hands where I'm to put my hands, and then shown what I was to do. And like, to this day, it's the craziest thing. I was like, there were like spirit doctors flanking me, literally teaching me, which was cool because like I said, I went to paramedic school at Loyola. And so I've been in surgeries, I've been in like trauma rooms and things. So I understood what it was that they were having me do. And then Spirit would explain why I was doing what I was doing, sending light through moving energy, like zapping things. I mean, it was the most incredible experience to be having because I wasn't expecting it.
So that was your first client that actually asked for medical help. And did they come in the door looking for medical help, or they just came in the door looking for some relief?
No, she came because she was told after all these years and all these different therapies and you name it. I mean, she had done everything she could. She's a young woman, by the way. She's got little, young kids. They told her only option was to remove her bladder, this young person. And so she was not she was like, before I do that, like, I've never heard of this, medical intuitives, or in fact, I wasn't yet medical intuitive stuff, but she gave it a try. Like, because she was at a loss, right?
Right.
She was about to go get cut up. And so she gave it a try, and that's what happened. And when she, after the session and all these really intense information about her childhood and things that she had experienced and like the intensity and the details, and she had people from the other side coming through who were actually, were like also doing work on her. I mean, it was astounding. And I mean, when I'm in that space, in that realm, nothing surprises me. So it's like, for me, I'm like, oh, of course, she's the grandma's here, like, cutting things out or do whatever she's doing. It doesn't strike me as odd when I'm in that realm.
So from that patient to date, how many people I shouldn't say patient, sorry, that client to date, because I don't want anybody saying that Bobbi called her a patient. I said it, Bobbi didn't say it. But from that first client who came in looking for something medical to date, how many people have you answered medical questions for?
Probably 250, 300. Mm-hmm.
And all of them have pretty much credited you with results that they had not been able to achieve before. And I'm so glad that you actually brought one of your clients with you here today. And there's a client who has had several sessions with Bobbi to help her navigate a pretty solid, devastating life of multiple different types of illnesses. Please welcome to us right now, honestly, please welcome Moya Mahoney. Thank you, Moya, for being here. So thanks for coming on to share, because, this is now, Bobbi's been on the podcast now. This is number 3. And, along the way, we've had her give information out to people to explain what a medical intuitive is. And we've also sat down with her once before with one of our other clients And, you know, I think it's important to have a person who's had the experience themselves sit here rather than just you and I kind of talk through it. And let's back up for a second. So, what was going on in your life?
A lot of health issues.
And health issues like what? Because I mean, I know you listed them one time. It was everything from having lupus to not lupus, but having irritable bowel syndrome to fibromyalgia to chronic fatigue syndrome. You had been diagnosed with these illnesses by Western doctors,
Yes, by several different doctors.
and this was going on over what period of time?
I was officially diagnosed in 2016, but had been dealing with it since 2009. So it had been about 10 years of on health issues off and on.
And just so people can understand, describe what your life was like. Right, the week before you went to see Bobby, where your fatigue syndrome was so bad that you couldn't go out of the house, or were you going out of the house? What was going on in your life?
By that point, I had dealt with my health issues for about 3 years and had seen just about every doctor that I could see. I tried all different types of Western medicine.
They had you on multiple medications.
They had lots of pain medication, trigger. They wanted to put me on opioids. I was up to 6 pain pills a day, and it still didn't help my pain. My pain level was at a 9 on a daily basis. Chronic fatigue so bad that at times I would get out to walk my dogs and would get half a block and didn't know how I was going to get home. Wheelchair bound if I had to get into a grocery store or if I had to go to any type of event with my husband, I would have to go in a wheelchair. Concerts. I was really good friends with motor scooters at Target or Walmart. I no longer could process food. My irritable bowel had gotten so bad that the pain was excruciating whenever I ate. I couldn't eat citrus. I could no longer digest most foods. By the time I saw Bobbi.
Well, wait, don't before you tell me that. Not by the time you saw her. How did you even find out about Bobby? You were on a Western medication track.
She'd been to Mayo Clinic.
You've been to Mayo Clinic, just gone to Mayo Clinic.
Weeks before, I had tried last ditch effort to try to figure out.
So you're walking down the street and this brick hit you upside the head that had Bobby's name on it? No.
Well, I came back from Mayo and spent about a week in bed, just devastated that I couldn't find any more answers to what was going on with my health because it wasn't getting any better. And I tried everything and it wasn't working. So I was at the end of my life. I didn't know how I was going to live my life for the next 20 years in the state that I was in. So I said, God, I've got to figure this out. I've got to figure out a way to do something other than what I'm doing because it's not working. So I went through some files that I had. I had a neighbor that worked at an acupuncturist office at a wellness center. And I reached out to her. I sent her a text message and I made an appointment with an acupuncturist. And she says, wait, before you go and see him, I had an actual appointment scheduled. She says, I want you to see Bobbi. She says, my friend's wife, Bobbi, is really incredible, and I think she can help you. She says, here's her information. Look on her website. And I looked on the website and booked an appointment.
And were you skeptical? Were you open? What was going on?
I had no idea what exactly it was. I just knew it wasn't Western medicine and it didn't involve more procedures and medication that wasn't working. And I had to try something. And I was open-minded to it. I was open-minded to it.
So first day you show up at Bobby's office, you walk in the door, you see this woman standing in front of you with, spiked hair, and you go, what? No, I mean, what was the reaction when you walked in?
My first reaction was comfort. I felt comfortable in her space that she has at her office, and she put me at ease really, really quickly. I wasn't deterred by the tattoos or the hair.
And then wait, so she walks in the door, you look at her, what do you see?
First, just same.
And I should back up and say again, she makes an appointment with you. You don't question her about what her diagnosis has been or any of those things, right?
No, that wasn't questioned at all.
So she opens up the door, walks in, and hi, I'm your 2:00.
Right. And so she comes in, I have people sit down for a minute, and she was gray. She just looked horrible. She was, depressed. Looked depressed to me. Her energy was just, there wasn't any. So to me, like zero life force. And then I said, so, how can I help? Like, what what made you make the appointment? And she shared with me what she just shared with you. And I basically said, let's see, you know, I had her lay down again and I tuned in, and, you know, she could share what she wants about the emotional stuff that was coming up. But um, same, like, you know, doing my CAT scan. Yeah, with, you know, sending light through.
And when you say doing my CAT scan, this is not with a CAT scan machine. You don't have a CAT scan, you don't have an X-ray, you don't have an EEG, none of those things. You basically are the CAT scan.
Yeah, I mean, right. So because I will go to the head, and I just put my hand there and I tune in and close my eyes, and spirit and whoever, everybody kind of shows up, and I'm asking you know, how can I help? And we then light is sent through, like comes basically out of my hand and is sent through for this process. And I can see the electrical system. You know, to me, the electrical system is, you know, energetic, and also the physical, right? Where there's density. I see it all. It's like looking at a negative or something. And so again, with her, I couldn't get past her throat and I would, so they give me information and I ask questions, right? They have me ask questions. I don't ask anything unless I'm guided by spirit to ask, because there's always a reason why they're asking. So I was like, you know, you're not, something's going on with your throat, blah, blah, blah. And so she's affirming these things, and I'm able to get through that and then finish my scan. And even though I can see, like, there's zero lights on, that's what I call, it's like zero lights on in the house for her. And it's okay to say, I think that, you know, she felt suicidal, and I got that information from them, not from her. And then I said, is this how you're feeling? That, you know,
I hadn't told anybody that, not even my husband.
And now, again, you walk in, you see her, she doesn't put you off by appearance or by style, and she asks you to lay down on the table. While she's doing this, what are you feeling?
I'm feeling like an energetic feeling, like my body's awakening. Like I could feel feeling in my fingertips that I hadn't felt in a long time. I started feeling tingling in my toes, where I had a lot of numbness from my knees down.
And this is just from the conversation that you two are having.
This is from her laying her hands on me on the table.
And so this is, again, first session that you're having with her. Is this an hour, 2 hours, 3
1
hours? 1 hour. At the end of that hour, how did you feel?
I felt like I couldn't wait to come back. So I felt like I had been awakened. It's like I felt like my life spirit had been awakened. Like,
when Bobbi, did you get below the throat with your light check?
Oh yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, I don't know how much to explain, but it's like like that's just the first thing that I do, and then I stood up. I was told to stand up and put my fingers in certain places because I can see meridians. They're, to me, they look like, you know, blue balls, and then the smaller ones underneath are a lighter blue connected by like a really light blue, what looks like a straw, if you want. Like, I can't remember what that kid game is, but they're all connected. But if so for her, nothing was lit up from here down. So what my initial job was to like get in there and light everything back up by like what, you know, the energy coming through my fingertips. And so and one by one they would turn on, and then push light in, and the submeridians would turn on. I mean, it's unbelievable. And so that's what I did slowly. While I'm doing this, I'm getting all kinds of information about her horrific childhood and her, I mean, you can say what you want to share, what you want to share, but, you know, devastating stuff. And she was in just hearing it. And,
okay, I'm okay with saying it.
Okay.
But again, you are basically making her, well, the spirits are making you aware of what she's been through, and you're making her accept and look at it.
Yeah, well, she did. She was in acceptance. There's a lot of things you didn't remember that then made sense. But right, I mean, there was a lot of things that she had buried, and that it all started making sense. And a lot of information about her mother, who's actually still here, but we can talk about dark energies another time. But and so it was kind of an emergency to get her lights on because she was ready to check out, like literally, physically, everything. I could see what was going on in her intestines, and that there was like a twist in her intestines, and she wasn't able to use the bathroom, and I mean, she was a mess.
My body was no longer functioning.
And in enormous pain, like, just everything.
And so that was session 1. How many sessions did it take for you to start to find some relief?
Within the first session, I started feeling relief. I started feeling I could walk my dogs around the block, which I hadn't done in years. It was the first thing that I noticed. My diet, I was able to, I haven't had an orange or any type of citrus fruit or anything acidic in 10 years. Within a couple of sessions, I was eating an orange every day, drinking. One of the things she asked me to do is drink warm water with lemon. I thought, she's crazy. I could be able to digest that. And it was amazing. It was soothing. It was healing. And before, it used to give me really bad mouth sores and horrible stomach aches.
So now the IBS cleared up after a period of time?
I still have flare-ups of my IBS, but I don't have, it's not constant.
And fibromyalgia?
Fibromyalgia, I still have, if I overdo it physically, or if I start doing things I'm not advised to do, like be around people that are not good energies for me, or do things that are unhealthy for me, then I tend to, my chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia flares up a bit. But if I take care of myself and get good sleep and eat well and a lot of water.
Now, some would say, though, if you had done that without Bobbi's help, you might still be in the same position you're in today. Would you say that or no?
I would say that no, because of the advice. She not only does her sessions and puts her hands on you and does the healing that she does, but she also asks that you do your part as well. There's a prescription that she gives you to go home with.
Well, spirit.
Not prescription, but a recommendation of things like walking and yoga and, like I said, teas.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally, if I can see dehydration, for instance, like in her, everything was, a mess, like I said, but so I can see the dryness inside a body. I see it in, and then I'm just on, they say, dehydration, like the word will come or whatever. And then they, spirit, not me, will give, what you can do, what you need to do after these sessions. Like Epsom baths are a big thing. And it's not for everybody, actually, or sometimes they need to wait to do it. Like I just wait and listen for them to say what is necessary for each individual person, and I write it down and stuff. And for her, I mean, I don't know if warm lemon water would have cleared your fibromyalgia or whatever, but
I also want to interject and say that during these sessions, the first few sessions too, she never advised me not to see my doctor or ever stop taking any medication or take any medication. That I still should see my doctors and follow through with that as well.
You assess it. Life before Bobbi, life after Bobbi.
Life before Bobbi was not. I didn't have a life anymore. I was stuck in my home. I wouldn't say I was depressed. I was really trying to live, and now I have a life. Now I'm living.
If you went back, have you gone back to any of these Western doctors that you were seeing before?
The day I saw my rheumatologist.
And what did your rheumatologist say?
It's funny because shortly after, I think it was the 5th or 6th session, it just so happened that my rheumatologist was going to wean me off some of my medications naturally. I've been able to go off some medications that I was taking to keep my immune system from overreacting because I have...
they call it like severe autoimmune.
Yeah, I have a severe autoimmune. They think I have lupus or sarcoidosis, but anyway. So my sarcoid levels and lupus levels were up even while I was taking this medication. And since I've gone off and seen Bobbi, I saw her today. All of those levels have gone down, and my inflammation.
And how many sessions have you been through so far?
I've been with her for 3 months. I think it's like 11 sessions.
2 a week, 1 week?
One a week.
One a week.
Well, unless there's a vacation or something.
Yeah, she's got a vacation. It was every 2 weeks, and now we go once a week, unless she's busy.
And, and again, there are people out there who, I have to play the naysayer. People out there are going to say, well, again, how can you think that it's Bobbi when Western was going on at the same time? And maybe it just took a little longer. It took that 11 weeks for the Western medication to kick in.
It was years of
I
Western
had years of Western medicine, years of many, many doctors. I still have some of the same doctors that I've had for the last 5 years. My rheumatologist I've had for my diagnosis forward. I still see all of my regular doctors.
And all of them are happy with the progress that you've been making.
They're all happy, and they can't explain why my levels are changing.
So how do you not convince? Because I don't think there will be convincing, Bobbi, of doctors, but how do you get them to understand that you're a complement to, or just another modality that they can actually tap into rather than be afraid of you? How do you convince them to do that? Is there more stories like Moya's?
I think it's more stories like Moya's. I think that, knowing that like I I've said, hey, when can you go get a scan? Right? Like a CT scan, a Western medicine, because I see what I see. And sometimes I don't know, or if is this energetic that I'm seeing here, or is it actually in the physical? And I would never take the chance with anyone to be like, oh no, don't worry about it, it's not in the physical. So I say, can you go get a scan? Right? And then we'll work on something. When there's a scan that looks like this, and then we do our work, and there's a scan that looks like this. Like there's a difference, and that's a lot with a lot of people.
About a week ago, and for those, since this is not necessarily, we actually tape these podcasts and then we broadcast them. So it was could have been a few weeks ago. I don't know if you saw the case of the psychic who has now been brought up on charges and actually sentenced to 17 years. Have you seen this? Yeah, but honestly, in this particular case, this woman was truly scamming a family. But there are people out there that are doing this, that are scamming. So how do you get people to understand that, throughout that whole area, there are some out here like yourself who are trying to talk truth? How do you get them to not throw you in with the rest of those that are scamming?
Well, I mean, interestingly enough, when I experienced the same thing as a real estate agent, right? When I first got into real estate, I mean, unfortunately, there's a lot of real estate agents, mortgage people that are not on the up and up, right? I mean, there's a lot of that. And so I had to meet that as well. Like people made assumptions that I was not going to, do what was best for them or guide them into what would, because I just wanted a commission, right? I couldn't worry about that or focus on that. And I don't worry about what people think of me right now. I just am in service at the highest level that I can be in service. And I focus on that. It's all I can do, because there's always going to be, and I ended up being a top producing real estate agent, wearing shorts and flip flops with crazy messy hair because I was trustworthy. And I went above and beyond for people. I do that now. So
again, you don't counter or put down what they're treated with through Western medication.
No.
You just compliment through what you're doing.
Right.
If I could interrupt, if anything, she works with them, I believe. That's my own experience, is that she's worked with my doctors to find the best solution for me.
Would you say, again, people who are literally at their wit's end, do you have to wait till your wit's end to do this?
Absolutely not. No, I don't believe so.
Absolutely. Well, Bobbi, I'm telling you, I could talk for another hour, but we're about out of time. I can't say thank you enough. First off, Moya, for being here, and thank you for sharing your story. with all listeners. And Moya is a client of Bobbi Vogel. And again, if they want to reach out and get a hold of you, Bobbi, how do they do so?
www.ethericmedicine.com, ETHERIC medicine.com.
And like, I said after the last podcast you did a couple months ago, you got to come back. I know what's going to happen as soon as we put these up. The internet's going to blow up again, and people are going to want to have more information. So I think I want to have you come back and let's do this again sometime.
That'd be great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. And thank all of you out there who keep tuning in to Let's Be Blunt with Montel. This is the place that you can go for the best information on lots of things that are near and dear to your heart. We focus in on cannabis and on hemp, but every now and then we like to take that right-hand turn and talk about things like this, like etheric medicine. So thank you again, Bobbi, for being
Thank you,
here.
Montel.
Absolutely. Tune in to the next Let's Be Blunt with Montel.